The COVID-19 pandemic is actually more than just health issue. It appears to be a total situation. It's political, it's social, it's economical. So people are even spiritual in many ways. So people are affected on many dimensions. It has led to several devastating results. Several people have died. Maybe not directly from the COVID disease itself, but from all the associated things, from lack of food, to the mental health issues, to the fear. I think that was the major one initially. So we thought a Christian doctor intervention is more holistic in taking care of that issue. That's why actually we thought we have a big role to play in meeting the need at that time.
We didn't know what we had. Our lives were not perfect, but we were free. We could go outside without dread. I mean, isn't going outside supposed to be normal? Well, as I was saying, parents could hug their children, nurses could hold their patients, and offer a soothing feeling that could best be described as balm to the heart through their warm touch. We all could smile and flash our teeth and hail beyond even lifting a finger. We said the grace while holding the hands of the people we cared about. We had lives, real beautiful ones, but we didn't know what we had till it came. The virus came as the wind blew, swift without warning. We had to watch all the norms and beats we held so dearly fade away. A virus sweeping across nations, speed of light, emptying streets and filling up graves. We heard it like distant news until it became true, as real as the hugs we once freely shared. See, this thing had a pattern. What's the word now? A natural history. Maybe not. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, it crept in gradually but somewhat steadily. Initially, it was attributed to the foreigners immigrating, making it seemingly easy to look the other way. But then it climbed a step further. Our people were being affected. That it seemed to affect only people with recent travel history, and it's easy to deduce. Who are the people who could afford to have travel history? The rich. So what on the street was it? The rich man's disease. Once again, the masses could look the other way. After all, a very good number of the population had just recently been struck really badly by a recession, and the little they had before had now become nothing. Hilarious skits pervaded the social media, true to the jolly nature of the Nigerian spirit. Little did we know that the virus wasn't nearly done yet. It picked up its pace of spread and infiltrated, showing no respect for tribe, sex, religion, educational, social, or political status. Now everyone was involved one way or the other. It became alarming. Then came the lockdown, and with it the horrible hunger. With everyone confused about what exactly this virus was, Scientists were puzzled, studying its microbiology and relating it with the cause of the disease. Leaders backed up into dark corners and could see how fast the disease was taking a toll on economies and other issues. The common man couldn't care much about analysis. He was simply frightened. All everyone wanted to know was, what is the solution? Days turned to weeks, and as the number of patients increased, everyone is sent home with rules. But then in these times of darkness, does a little light make a difference? Cmda Nigeria. A group of Christian doctors, dentists, and students rose to sow their might in skill and gifts, trying to provide solutions through their platform, medicine, as Christ would demand.
I'm hungry and I'm ready for change. I run too far to still be the same. See who I was, I give him away. Today, no longer bound by what people say. I know that I will make mistakes. I fall, but I refuse to stay. Today,
I've been waiting all my life to get to the door. And now it's time to help someone see their life for so much more.
today we go.
Help somebody, heal somebody,
We go.
free somebody,
Hey.
forgive somebody,
Today we go.
touch somebody, love somebody,
We go.
catch somebody, let go of somebody.
Today, I see the hurt upon your face, thinking how much more of this can I take? In a minute, I'm about to break. Today, see the pain has purpose, so don't throw it away. There's a harvest if you only wait. Don't walk out now, I need you to stay. Today,
Though you never felt winds blow like this before, but if what you see is all you see, you will miss there's so much more.
today we go. We go.
Somebody, free somebody, forgive somebody,
Today we go.
somebody,
Come on.
love somebody, catch somebody,
Yeah.
let go of somebody today.
Hey, we gon' live our lives. We can't waste no more time. Hey, we not looking back no more. Let's go. Louder, y'all. Just a little bit louder, y'all. Just a little bit louder, y'all. That's it. I think I feel the weather change. Think I felt my last drop of rain. I believe I'm gonna be okay. Today, see today, I'm still here because of my faith. I believe that Jesus still is the way. I said his name cause I'm not afraid. Today.
Somebody, somebody, free somebody,
Yeah.
give somebody,
We go.
touch somebody, love somebody,
started sailing with the ship even before we started building it. And so we set out and we started doing a couple of things. And I tell you that the testimonies that have come out, the number of lives that have been touched, we set out to help the country in its time of need by setting up a very strong Christian-led, faith-based response. But I can tell you that we have achieved so much in the course of doing this. One of the things that we've achieved is that a lot of our chapters have become stronger. They become, more invested in the vision, and it's just been a wonderful time of fellowship. I tell you that Cmda is really talented. We have people who know stuff. We have people who are committed. We have people who are willing to give. And I tell you that in terms of sacrifice, I manage the team, but I tell you that every single member of that committee was a daily inspiration for me. I could never have imagined that those kind of people really existed. People that went out of their way, spent sleepless nights, they gave their monies, gave their resources, they were willing to facilitate. I never knew that we had so many people in Cmda who were fantastic facilitators. Even the student arm was wonderful. As I speak, the students are making face shields that will be distributed. We made so many liters, probably like over 700 liters of hand sanitizers, which we have distributed most of it. So many things have happened, lives being touched, food distributed all across the country, and I tell you that the sacrifices that the brethren put into this work was amazing. It was awesome. I have never seen anything like it. In fact, I feel I feel like my job is the easiest because, at times when I see brethren going out of their way, getting out in the heat and in the thickness of, the COVID-19 epidemic, brethren were out on the street, giving their best, giving their time. The sacrifices that they made was super. It was awesome. And I know that God will reward them. Personally, for me, I tell you, this period, God has been faithful. He has rewarded me. I have a testimony I'll be sharing during this conference of what God has done. The theme for this conference initially was, the theme for the conference was Greater Works. And, we were planning for a conference titled Greater Works. Little did we know that God was not going to wait for the conference to happen before the Greater Works began to happen. I mean, we're planning for Greater Works conference, and God said, no, there is an epidemic and I need you guys to do Greater Works. And honestly, brethren did Greater Works. They went out of their way. I never knew we had so many talents. I'm not talking about, medical talents now, talents around the practice of medicine. I'm talking about talents in terms of financial management, talents in terms of information and communication technology, talents in terms of supply chain management, talents in terms of production of hand sanitizers and all kinds of things. Brethren was super, and I really, really felt very privileged being, a part of that committee. I'm actually heading the committee. For me, it's a lifelong privilege, and I really thank God for the opportunity. I must say that it wasn't easy. There were days that we were discouraged. There were days we felt bad. There were days that, people were depressed. Some, could not cope because of the other demands that they had to attend to, but we worked together. We cared about each other. We called each other. We asked about each other's families and children and career, everybody had a shoulder ready and available for the next person to lean on, to cry on, and it was just a fantastic effort that we put in. And I can tell you that a lot of the work that we did was done virtually. There was hardly ever a time that we met in person. We were on phone calls, we were on Zoom calls, we were on all kinds of calls, We're having meetings every week at a minimum. We're having meetings with chapter reps every week. Chapter reps were super wonderful. They went out of their way. They were the foot soldiers. They did so much of the work. It was just amazing. I tell you. And, I have a message for everyone who really put in effort into this response. And my message is that, you cannot outgive God. You have given your time, you've given your resources. Some of you sacrificed time with your families. Some of you got injured in the process. Some of you lost things in the process. I tell you that the God of the heavens and the earth, He's going to reward you. I tell you, right in the midst of doing all of those, efforts, I got some wonderful, fantastic testimonies. And I know that if God could bring those testimonies my way, your testimony is coming your way. And for those of you who really didn't have the time or the opportunity to contribute, or to make one effort together, the response is still on. We've not stopped. I want to encourage you. Please pick up your phone number, call or send an email, send a WhatsApp message, and let us know you want to be involved. And there's always something to do. There's still space on the chariot. There's still space on the chariot. Pop on the chariot, and let's see what it is that we can do. One thing I always told the committee was that, see, I grew up in Cmda, being very used to going to rural areas to do missions and all of those types of things, which were fantastic and wonderful. But I tell you that this missions field is an epidemic. And I can tell you that God gave us the wisdom, He gave us the strength and courage, to do the best that we can.
Thankfully, we've been involved in a lot of work in support of the efforts to control the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, which we all met. Nobody kind of prepared for this, but then it became obvious as well that God understands all things and knows all things, and so I think on the basis of that, He already told us that this was going to be a decade of impact. So in response to the COVID, there's been...
I believe that this COVID-19 pandemic worldwide, as it applies to our nation, Nigeria, is actually an opportunity, a wake-up call, so to speak, that I strongly believe God has given us as a nation, as an opportunity to revamp our health sector and put our money where our mouth is, and stop playing lip service to the development of our health sector. So I believe that in every adversity, there are opportunities. And this COVID-19 situation, especially our health sector, is a golden opportunity for the governments and the authorities that be in Nigeria at every level, the federal level, the state level, the local government level, the legislative level, even the judiciary levels. If you have to amend laws, if you have to make new laws, we need to revamp our health sector and stop relegating the health sector to the background. There's nothing stopping us from developing our health sector here to such level that Nigeria, just like India is doing now, Dubai and other places, Nigeria's health sector begin to attract medical tourism. We have the resources. Out of the several billions that have been allocated since the COVID-19 started, if every tertiary hospital in Nigeria, teaching or federal teaching hospital, probably, for example, are giving say 5 to 10 billion to develop their system. We will not be where we are by the end of the year. I feel that there is really no justification for the current state of our health sector, but for mismanagement, lack of focus, and not prioritizing healthcare. The government needs to do a lot more in area of public enlightenment. We still see at our bus stops and marketplaces and all that, several people walking about without a face mask. Even those some that have a semblance of face mask on are not even using it appropriately. Some will have the appropriate face mask, they hang it on their chin rather than covering their respiratory orifices, openings. And so all these are due to ignorance or lack of information or defiance. And there are high rates of non-compliance, and government can do a lot. The National Orientation Agency should deploy resources. All the electronic print media should be mobilized. The private sector should be mobilized by government to invest seriously in public enlightenment to change this current non-compliant culture largely that we have seen. The level of compliance to Nigerian Center of Disease Control guidelines as per people putting on face masks, social distancing, and the likes have not really been very encouraging, and we need to do a lot more in that context. Well, to our population, I believe that a Nigerian by nature want to live longer, don't want to die honestly. So if we can convince them to take this very seriously, it goes a long way to determine the outcome at the end of the day. We should know that this current pandemic is a threat to our longevity individually and as a nation. So the government alone cannot do it. If the government is doing their best and the population are non-compliant, the public are non-compliant, it will still amount to an exercise in futility. So we want to plead with our public, the general population, to take the recommendations of the Nigerian Center of Disease Control and World Health Organization and other stakeholders very seriously. Africa Center of Disease Control. So the use of face masks have been shown to be a very useful and efficacious in minimizing the risk of exposure or being infected, because we're dealing with a respiratory pathogen. In addition to frequent hand hygiene with soap and water, alcohol-based hand sanitizer, maintaining social distances, I believe every person in the country that is stepping out of their home must put on a face mask. We protect each other. It has been shown that even if someone who is coughing, sneezing, or presumed to be having signs and symptoms of COVID-19 is masked and is coughing or sneezing with the mask on, the likelihood or chances of getting someone in proximity infected drops from as high as 70% to 5%, and less. And not to talk of when both parties, both the people around and the individual concerned are both masked, the likelihood of infection is has been shown to be less than 1.5%. So we have nothing to lose. We know that masks are not 100% protective. Of course, we said this in addition to several other measures as recommended. Good cough etiquette, coughing into your sleeve. You still have a disposable handkerchiefs or tissues, which should be disposed of immediately. So a lot of people do contract it and recover. So there's still hope. It's not a death sentence, and we have a hope also that is greater than every other hope, and it is called Jesus Christ. The Bible calls him the hope of glory. I believe that God has a purpose for allowing this, and it's for our good. If we all take heed to seize this moment as an opportunity, rather than to just be looking in despair and feeling hopeless. We have every reason to look forward to a glorious future for our nation, and I would trust God to help our government and our population to do the needful to mitigate further spread of this disease in our country, and we trust by the mercies of God that the hand of God will stop this plague eventually. And we are grateful to God too, compared to several Western countries, that the mortality rate has been quite low here relative to the number of confirmed cases, and that can only be divine providence, the mighty hand of God at work. God is a merciful God.
Hello, I am Dr. Pabi Sikan. I am a COVID-19 overcomer. Yes, I would like to say I'm an overcomer. I'm not just a survivor, because I overcame COVID-19 by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of my testimony. I'll be sharing a few things I learned through this experience. When I got news of my result, when I heard I tested positive, it came a bit unexpected to me. I didn't think I would test positive to COVID-19 a week after my birthday and have to be isolated from my friends, from work and everything. But I remember that God is in charge of my life. I remember that nothing catches him by surprise. I mean, like, he's already in the day before it even happens. So I remember that God was always going to be there with me, and most importantly, he was going to heal me. So he helped me handle the news that I tested positive a bit better than I would have. My fears came when I began having symptoms that I never had on admission. A week into admission, I had some symptoms that I did not have from the onset, but I professed God's word a lot throughout the period. It helped me to overcome my fears. I remember in Ephesians 2 verse 20 that God was able to do super abundantly more than we can dare to think, dare to imagine, according to his power that's at work in me, as I walk in me. So I continually said that God's power is at work in me, healing me and restoring me completely. Even when I still felt the symptoms, even when I didn't still feel so good, I still continually professed God's word. And then I also journaled a lot throughout the period. I wrote how I felt, I wrote God's word down, I wrote down his promises. It helped me to remember that God was so close to me, and then he was taking care of me, he was healing me because he loved me. He loves me and I'm his child. Yes, that helped me a lot throughout the period. To someone who is newly diagnosed with COVID-19, can be a very trying time, having to be isolated from your friends and your family. It's a novel disease, there's no drug treatment, so there are lots of fears and stigma associated with the disease. But remember that God is in charge of your life. God will never leave or forsake you, and he would heal you, he would restore your health completely. To the general public, COVID-19 is real. COVID-19 is not a scam. It's not malaria. COVID-19 is not something the government is just using to get money. COVID-19 is real. I had anosmia. I have never had anosmia before. COVID-19 is real. So as much as we can, we know that God preserves us. We know that God shields us. But please, let's try to maintain safety precautions. Please wash out your hands as frequently as possible. Maintain social distancing. Use a face mask as well. Right now, it's not just about hospital spread. There's a lot of community spread going on around you. So please, as much as we can, let's try to maintain these safety precautions, and I pray that God protects us and preserves us. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Fiona Omonimasako. I'm a house officer in University of Benin Teaching Hospital, and I had COVID-19 some weeks ago, let's say a month ago. And let's say when I got my results, when I saw the results, I already had symptoms and had anosmia, and I was just wondering, wow, my own fear was, what if the anosmia continued and did not resolve, because I was not having any other symptoms. The malaria had resolved by then when I got the results. So another fear I had was the long-term effects of COVID-19, because it's a new disease. We don't know how it will affect the body in years to come. So that was part of my fears. But in all, I just remember that God has greater plans for me than I would ever imagine. He has taken me, I've gone through different situations, but he had been my strength and my peace through it all. So I knew this COVID-19 was not a new disease. It was not new to him, and he was going to work everything somehow to my good. Okay, for those out there who are recently diagnosed COVID-19, for somebody recently diagnosed COVID-19, what I have to say is not the end of the world. Somehow you beat it. God's going to be there for you, and at the end you come out victorious. And for the general public, what I have to say is COVID-19 is very much real. I know some persons say, it's political, there's something behind it, it's just a way, a ploy to get money and all that, but it's very much real. Don't wait to be a victim before you take the necessary precautions like hand washing, wearing your face mask and all that.
With kindness and compassion for the one for whom you love and gave your son for humanity. Increase my